In the year 617, a single general took China's largest city in just 5 months. A century later, it had become the largest city in the world. It was called Chang'an. Nearly 1 million people lived within its walls. It spanned more than 84 square kilometers, 5 times the size of Rome at its peak, 7 times that of Constantinople. Using modern AI tools and drawing on historical records and archaeological evidence, I've reconstructed what it looked like at the height of its glory. Start from above. Chang'an was made up of 108 walled residential wards, laid out like a chessboard, divided in 2 by its great central avenue, Juke Avenue. Juke Avenue was 155 meters wide, far wider than the wingspan of an Antonov An-225. Many foreign envoys, walking up that avenue toward the palace for the first time, would simply fall silent, because they understood this was no ordinary city. At the city's northern edge stood a palace complex covering 3.2 square kilometers, nearly 5 times the size of Beijing's Forbidden City. This was Daming Palace, where the emperors of Tang China ruled 50 million people. There was only one way in, the Danfeng Gate, 5 great gateways side by side, the highest-ranking gate in the entire empire. Beyond it stood Hanyuan Hall, raised on a platform 15 meters high, the height of a modern 4- or 5-story building. On ceremonial days, hundreds of officials lined up by rank in the courtyard below, seen from above, a living map of power. And Hanyuan was only the first hall on the central axis. Behind it stood Xuanzheng Hall, and then Zichen Hall, 3 halls, each set deeper than the last, turning getting close to the emperor into a journey you had to earn. But the most famous part of this palace wasn't its front gate. It was the north gate, the Xuanwu Gate. At dawn on July 2nd, 626, the emperor's second son, Li Shimin, hid soldiers here and waited for his brothers to pass. He killed both of them himself. 3 months later, his father stepped down. Li Shimin became Emperor Taizong, one of the most celebrated rulers in all of Chinese history. He later tried to erase that day from the official records. The court historian refused. Over the next 2 centuries, the Tang Palace Guard would depose, blind, and kill one emperor after another. Rome's Praetorian Guard murdered 13 of theirs. The problem of the Palace Guard, it turns out, is a disease that runs through all of human civilization. Now leave the palace and step into where ordinary people lived. Each of Chang'an's 108 residential wards had its own walls and its own gates. Every evening, at the sound of the drums, every ward gate closed at once. Latecomers ran for their lives. Because after curfew, the streets belonged to the night watch, and if they caught you, you were beaten on the spot. Merchant or official, it made no difference. With this system, the government tracked, taxed, and controlled the population ward by ward, breaking a city of 1 million people into 108 manageable pieces. Within the wards, the closer you lived to the palace, the more you paid. The farther south, the cheaper. Some things haven't changed in 1,000 years. Every morning, the gates opened and the whole city came alive. Chang'an had two great markets. The East Market served the aristocracy and the court. But it was the West Market that changed history. The West Market was the end of the Silk Road. Persians, Arabs, Indians, Japanese, Koreans all did business here. Step inside and you'd hear a dozen languages at once, smell spices carried from the Indian Ocean, and see glass shipped from the Mediterranean, treasures only the nobility could afford in Tang China. Near the market, archaeologists have unearthed dozens of tombstones belonging to Persian merchants. Some had lived in Chang'an for 30 or 40 years. Some never went home. Their tombstones record their hometowns, their trades, the year they died. And on a few of them, their names written in their own hand in Chinese. Every empire has a peak. The Tang's peak even has a name, the Kayuan era, and a man who built it, the dynasty's 7th emperor, Xuanwu. He brought the Tang to its height, and its decline began with him too. In the year 745, at the age of 61, he fell in love with a woman of 27, Yang Yuhuan, his own son's wife. At Huaqing Palace, below Mount Li, he built her a hot spring bath, wrote her poems, gathered the finest musicians in the land, and then he stopped governing. In Chang'an, the banquet still ran until dawn, and the music still played all night. But the vast machine that kept a city of 1 million people running was quietly grinding to a halt. No one knew the empire's frontiers were slipping out of control. No one knew the city's best days were already behind it. 138 years earlier, a single general had taken this city in 5 months and founded a dynasty. In 755, another general marched his army straight for Chang'an, this time to tear it down. Xuanzong fled. On the road, his own soldiers mutinied and demanded Yang Yuhuan's death. The emperor who had built the Golden Age ended her life with his own hands, with a length of white silk. But the real ending belonged to the city. In 756, the rebels stormed Chang'an. The largest city in the world was plundered and engulfed in the fires of war, and 1 million people scattered. The Zhuke Avenue we have walked, the east and west markets, the walled walls and the palaces, all of it met the end of its golden age in the ruin. But before all of that, before the war, Chang'an was one of the most religiously diverse cities in the world. This is the giant wild goose pagoda, first built in 652 and still standing, more than 1,300 years later. Its story begins with one man. The monk Xuanzang spent 17 years walking across Asia and brought back hundreds of Sanskrit Buddhist scriptures from India. The giant wild goose pagoda was built at his own request to house them, because he feared a single fire could undo all 17 years of his journey. His story later became Journey to the West and gave the world the Monkey King. But Buddhism was only one corner of Chang'an's religious map. An eastern branch of Christianity, the Church of the East, condemned as heresy in the West and carried eastward along the Silk Road, built its churches here. Persian Zoroastrianism, Manichaeism from Western Asia, and Islam all took root as well. In 781, a stone stele was raised in Chang'an, inscribed in both Chinese and Syriac, recording 150 years of Christianity in China. These faiths worshipped openly side by side in the same city and at peace for nearly 200 years. 1 million people had to eat, and the plains around Chang'an could never feed that many. The answer ran along a single river, except this one was dug by hand. The Grand Canal, built by the previous dynasty, the Sui, at the cost of the entire nation's strength, ran nearly 2,700 kilometers. It is still the longest artificial waterway ever built. Digging it nearly exhausted the Sui and helped trigger the dynasty's collapse, but it left the Tang a lifeline. When archaeologists excavated it, they found more than 280 underground granary pits. In one of them, 1,300 years later, lay nearly 250,000 kilograms of grain, carbonized but still there. From here, the grain was carried on to Chang'an. With it, the government held prices steady and opened the storehouses in years of famine. A city of 1 million people kept itself alive for more than a century on a single waterway. 1 million people, one city. What they built wasn't just a city, it was a blueprint others could copy. And in time, all of East Asia did. Twice, Japan moved its capital by copying Chang'an directly. Heijo-kyo in 710, today's Nara, and Heian-kyo in 794, today's Kyoto. Rome solved the problem of the city for the West. Chang'an solved it for the East. Thanks for watching. Tell me in the comments which city I should rebuild next.